My mom wouldn't let me go on sleepovers as a kid, so then like going on one long 4-year overnight sleepover up in Cambridge was a bit of an adjustment.
First time I realistically thought about Harvard was as a sophomore in high school, when somebody that had gone to my high school and had been the first person to go to an Ivy League school came to present to us as she was at the time an undergrad at the college.
I sort of decided to apply based on an upperclassman that I knew who came to Harvard. He was also studying astrophysics, so I knew they had a pretty strong program there.
I was interested in a lot of different things, and just having those options available to me at Harvard was something that I really valued.
When applying to colleges, I sort of only applied to schools that I knew had like generous financial aid programs, which included like Harvard and other schools. And financial aid was definitely the most important factor for my family when choosing what college to attend.
Looking at need-based financial aid programs was important, and Harvard was at the top of the list among the schools that offered great need-based financial aid.
I remember before, as I was sending my application to Harvard, I went on like their financial aid website and looked at their net price calculator. Basically, I was trying to see, how much would it cost for my family if by miracle I had gotten into Harvard. And I was actually really surprised to see that my family would actually pay nothing to if I got into Harvard.
There's a lot of different benefits that are associated with being a student on financial aid. You get access to different events for free. You get additional financial help in things like doing research, in finding internships and things like that. And so it's really easy to fund not just your attendance here, but also your full participation in student life.
I've been able to have opportunities to travel. For the Collegium, which is the choir that I'm currently singing with, I'm actually going to be going to Sweden. Part of not only the official financial aid package, but also financial aid through organizations and other kind of things that happen on campus have allowed me to travel and also partake in opportunities that I never would have imagined.
So if you're on financial aid like me and you're on full financial aid or almost full financial aid, you get grants like a $2,000 startup grant when you first come to college, which you can use for anything you want, and that was really nice to have.
So my high school was a predominantly Hispanic school, and so I was worried that being in Boston and being at Harvard, where that wouldn't be the case, I would have a little bit of trouble adjusting. And on top of that, being first gen, I had a little bit of trouble thinking of myself being academically successful. But thankfully, I encountered a program called the First Year Retreat and Experience, or Harvard FIRE, which is a pre-orientation program targeted towards first-gen and low-income students, or students who come from high schools who are underrepresented in the Ivy League. That program helped me to navigate the resources that Harvard has, both in academic, professional, and social settings, as well as even like healthcare settings, and to be able to just be more confident in my arrival here.
I did have a hard time adjusting at the beginning, and I think it was really helpful to meet people who had had a very similar experience to mine in spaces that were specifically for first-gen students, where I could talk candidly about what I was going through, and I could get advice from people that had gone through that before. So sophomores, juniors, just upperclassmen who had advice, and that advice I could really apply to my day-to-day.
First-gen students are powerful people who can overcome anything that life throws at them.
I think being a first-gen student means being creative, being resourceful, and being very hardworking. I think all of the first-gen students that I've met on campus have definitely had so many different stories of how they got to Harvard and how they're managing at Harvard. So I think being a first-gen student means being part of this great community of people who encourage one another and really fight for what they want.
First generation really just means to me resilience and power and achievement. And something that shouldn't be shied away from, and an identity that should be embraced.
Don't lose your passion, follow it through. And just because you're first gen, don't think it'll hold you back.
Just know that there are people that have walked this path before. You're not alone. Don't feel like you're alone. Just reach out to friends. People, when you get to college, are really willing and happy to help in any way they can, to support you in any way they can. I trust that you're going to be just fine. And actually more than just fine, it's going to be a great time in college.